3 Sinister True Neighbor Horror Stories, Revelations of the Hidden Terror Next Door. Sarah had heard whispers of neighbor horror stories. They haunted her thoughts now more than ever in the quiet suburb where she lived, burdened by the weight of single motherhood and her nightly shifts as a nurse. The dread lurking next door felt palpable, an eerie menace that wafted through streets lined with manicured lawns. Mr. Caldwell, the reclusive figure next door, filled her with an unsettling fear. He was a man shaped by shadows, eyes haunted by memories of a mysterious past that belonged somewhere she couldn't fathom. When the Dernetti family's yellow lab went missing, along with 2 more pets from the neighborhood, anxiety pinched at Sarah's gut. Her mind raced during sleepless nights, conjuring dark thoughts as she played nurse to her bright-eyed daughter, Lily. The soft sound of crayon on paper had grown ominous, especially when one night, Sarah walked in on Lily feverishly sketching figures that sent ice coursing through her veins. Shadows loomed tall and thin, dark silhouettes that seemed to watch them the same figure, over and over. Just a child's imagination, she told herself. Yet, her heart raced each time she glimpsed those chilling drawings. As whispers of missing pets echoed around her, shadows deepened in her home. Sarah sought solace from the mothers at the playground, but they glanced nervously at Caldwell's house, their hushed voices thick with tension. They didn't trust him, he'd been the subject of too many stories. Disappearances. Every conversation was fraught with secrets, faces turning to masks beneath the gleam of streetlights. The suburb no longer felt safe. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As paranoia thickened, she resolved to confront Mr. Caldwell one stormy night, her heart pounding as fear clawed at her sanity. Each raindrop felt like a drum signaling her impending doom. The wind howled like a chorus of lost voices. She reached his porch, and the flickering lights twisted shadows like jagged teeth ready to devour her hope. Caldwell's smile pierced her with an unsettling familiarity, and his eyes connected with hers, holding a warning. "Children see things we cannot," he murmured, and a chill swept through her bones, leaving her breathless. What had once seemed like neighborly neglect began morphing into something sinister, a web of secrets ensnaring the entire community. Her daughter's innocent drawings became chains of dread tightening about her heart. Sarah turned toward her home, trembling hands barely keeping a grip on the doorknob. The lights went out in Caldwell's house, a void swallowing any sense of safety. Her pulse was thunderous in her ears as she turned back, staring out across the dim yard. What secrets lurked in the shadows? Glancing back at her own door, she felt the weight of something watching her, a quiet dread, a lurking awareness that the real horror might not come from the darkness lying beyond in the woods, but rather from the man cloaked in shadows just next door. The rain drummed harder, each drop echoing a tightening knot in Sarah's stomach. She stumbled back inside, slamming the door behind her. The sound reverberated in the silence, a hollow sound that felt wrong, unnatural. The house, once a refuge, felt cold and unwelcoming. As she scanned the dimly lit living room, Lily's drawings glared back at her from the wall, the crayon edges darkened by shadows. Those grotesque figures with elongated limbs and vacant eyes seemed to mock her. Heart racing, Sarah tried to shake it off. It was just her imagination, she thought. Just the aftermath of a long shift. But something wasn't right. The weight of those eyes followed her as she moved about the house. As she tucked Lily into bed, the little girl sighed sleepily, her small hand clutching the same tattered stuffed bear her father had given her. "Mommy," Lily murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "Mr. Caldwell says I can see the dark things. He says I can help." A shiver ran through Sarah. She forced a smile, fighting the urge to scream. "Sweetheart, it's just a story. You don't have to listen to him. Lily frowned, her innocent face shadowed by the dim light. But he knows things. He said he was waiting for me. Panic surged in Sarah when she realized that the trust her daughter had for this man could spell disaster. You must stay away from him, Lily. Promise me. Her daughter nodded, but the look in her eyes suggested she didn't truly understand. They shared a moment, a fragile bond that felt as if it could shatter. After smoothing the blankets and checking the window locks, Sarah retreated to the living room, the sense of dread looming heavy. She planted herself on the couch, trying to distract her racing mind with a book. But the words blurred before her eyes, replaced by the image of Caldwell standing on his porch, that jarring smile stretched across his face. Suddenly, a loud thud from outside jolted her upright. She strained to listen, the air thick with tension. Another thud closer now. It sounded like something hitting the ground. She crept over to the window, peering out into the darkness. Hesitant, she shifted the curtain aside, her heart pounding. The yard was empty, save for the flickering street lamp casting twisted shapes upon the grass. But her gaze locked on Caldwell's house, the darkness of the doorway swallowed him whole. Then she saw it, a shadow flicked past the window, darting in and out of the light. Goosebumps rose on her arms as fear sunk its claws into her. Was someone inside? Grabbing her phone, she stepped back, dialing the police with trembling fingers. Just as she hit call, she heard it, a low whisper, barely audible yet unmistakably near, beckoning from the darkness outside. Come, see. Chills surged down her spine. She turned back to the door, heart hammering, the line ringing as anticipation clawed at her mind. Lily's laughter echoed eerily in her head. He knows things. What did Caldwell know? The call was answered, but her voice caught in her throat, choked by the fear threading around her heart like a noose. Ma'am, what's your emergency? Just then, another thud resonated from outside, followed by a soft giggle that sent shivers racing down her spine. Sarah? The voice broke through her panic. Are you there? If Caldwell knew if he was waiting for her daughter, what was coming next? Get away, she whispered, gripping the phone tightly. But what if it was already too late? Every sound grew amplified in the stillness, a cacophony of terror painting vivid strokes through Sarah's mind. She clutched the phone to her ear, the operator's voice fading into a distant drone. Sarah. The voice cracked through the noise. It sounded just like her mother. But her mother had passed away years ago. Hello? She managed, the word barely escaping her lips. Please, I need help. Why are you whispering? The voice on the line urged. You need to. A loud crash outside silenced the operator, and the light flickering from the street lamp danced with urgency. Panic swelled, constricting Sarah's throat. She stepped to the door, trembling, her heart drumming against her ribs. The call had already begun to wane. It felt like a weak lifeline slipping away. Come see, the whisper came again, clamoring from the darkness. It was clear now, unmistakable. It dripped with a familiarity that made her stomach turn. It felt as though something, the very essence of it, spoke from the shadows, urging her to move closer. No. She murmured. I can't. But every instinct urged her forward. She wrapped her fingers around the door handle, the cold metal biting into her skin as if it were warning her, but what awaited outside was worse than what she could fathom. The rain lashed against the window, a tempest of cruelty cascading down, ricocheting off the walls of the house. As the whispers grew more insistent, they melded with the tempest outside. Mommy Lily's voice broke through the shadows like a breath of fresh air until Sarah recalled how far her daughter was. Sarah felt her heart flutter. Then came another giggle. It was high-pitched and shrill, like glass shattering, echoing from the backyard. It sent panic racing in her veins. No. Stay inside, Lily. She yelled, even though she knew her daughter was safe, tucked away in her room. Gathering what courage she had left, she glanced back at the phone. There was still silence on the line, and then she made her decision. She threw the door open, stepping outside, confronting the storm. A wave of cold struck her, but the air was heavy with something else too, an almost tangible dread hanging over her. "Caldwell!" she shouted, her voice rising above the growing storm, but the only response was another echoing thud, this time closer than before. "Come see." The whisper was a caress against her ear, persuasive, drenched in malevolence. She took a step back, heart racing, when suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness at the edge of Caldwell's property. It was small, child-sized, and painted against the shadowy backdrop, wrapped in a trench coat that looked too big for its slight frame. Its head turned slowly in her direction. Hollow eyes glinted in the half-light. The figure took a step forward, revealing pale skin and an unsettling grin that seemed to stretch wider with each passing moment. "Mr. Caldwell said you'd come." Fear snagged at her thoughts. "What do you want?" "Come play," it cooed, the laugh spiraling into a twisted melody as it beckoned with a bony finger. Horrified, she stumbled backwards, adrenaline surging through her. "No." But the figure just stood there, waiting, the vacant invitation tearing at her resolve. Every instinct screamed to run inside, to hold Lily close, but her feet felt like they were anchored in mud. Then another thud exploded behind her, a sound so visceral that it jolted her focus back to home. What had she left behind? "Lily!" she cried, panic anew flooding her veins. And just then, from the depths of the house, a soft melody began to play, Lily's lullaby, serene yet jarring amidst the chaos. "What's happening?" she thought, terror spiraling as the figure continued to advance. Was it all a game? Or had the storm unveiled something wicked lurking beneath the surface of the mundane? The questions churned in her mind as she felt the darkness closing in, each answer eluding her grasp. And what if this was only the beginning? The air thickened with anxiety, swirling around Sarah like a storm cloud ready to unleash its rage. The figure inched closer, its baleful grin spelling out her doom. A part of her screamed to bolt back inside, to find her daughter and escape this nightmare. But her boots were glued to the grass, roots entwined around her ankles, a prisoner to the shadows. "Come play." The word slithered into her ear again, a sickly sweet temptation dripping with darkness. Panic hardened in her gut. What kind of illusion was this? "Get away from me," she yelled, fury colliding with fear. For every ounce of hatred she threw at the creature, it seemed to grow all the more eager, that horrible, elastic grin widening further. The earth trembled beneath her, and she felt it in her bones, that foreboding sensation that something was watching her, waiting. She couldn't shake the feeling that beyond the figure, something malevolent was lurking just out of sight, an unseen cataclysm ready to erupt. "Lily!" Her voice cracked into the night, desperation pulled tight in her throat. Another crash echoed from the house, making the walls shudder. Something was off. Deep down, she understood, the lullaby wasn't right. It felt distorted, sinister in its familiarity. It was a facade, a siren song trying to draw her in. Just when she thought of bolting back to the house, the figure lunged forward, its movements unnaturally quick. She barely had time to react, sidestepping as it whirled past her. Her heart slammed in her chest like a reckless drummer, pumping pure dread through her veins. "Come play in the dark," it crooned as it danced through the downpour, mocking her with an eerie glee, eyes glistening wetly in the half-light. Lily's laughter twisted into a chilling echo, reverberating against the walls of her mind. No, she had to focus. Sarah glanced towards the house, an silvery outline in the storm, and just then another melody slid through the chaos, a child's laughter, distant, yet grasping at her sanity like a vice. "Lily!" she cried again, a scream born of terror. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she surged forward, skirting around the figure whose gaze felt like ice dragging across her skin. She dashed towards the house, ignoring the icy rain that drenched her clothes and skin. Warm blood rushed through her, fueling her frantic steps, but the lullaby twisted around her like a vine, tugging her back, whispering promises of safety. The door creaked wider as she neared, a dark mouth that seemed eager to swallow her whole. All she had to do was get inside, find her daughter, but just as she reached for the handle, the small figure burst from behind her, laughter erupting like broken glass. She twisted on her heel to face it, terror locking her chest tight. "What do you want from me?" "Not just you." Its grin slackened, revealing teeth that were too jagged, too rotten. "We want her, too." Reality twisted, setting Sarah's mind spinning. This wasn't just a trap for her, not a whim from a child lost in the storm. Something deeper entwined around their fates, a darkness that relished the playfulness of destruction. "Stay away from my daughter." She felt her voice rising, feeding off pure rage. The figure paused, tilting its head as if considering her resistance. "But you're not the one who makes the rules, are you?" And then, midst her rising dread, another soft melody chimed from inside the house, just as sweet and dissonant as the first. Promise of safety and warmth, but heavy with foreboding. Her heart sunk like lead. Behind her, the figure was gone, swallowed by the night, but that laugh echoed louder now, a chorus of voices rising from the shadows, melding together in a sinister symphony. "Run, Sarah!" It tore through her thoughts, the words dripped like venom in her ear. "Run, if you can." Shivers cascaded down her spine, raw panic igniting a primal instinct to flee. But where could she go? The storm raged, the laughter crescendoed, and her home, the sanctuary where she thought her daughter was safe, was now the epicenter of chaos. "What is happening?" she hissed in disbelief. With only a heartbeat between her and the crescendo of those giggles, Sarah took one last look at the house before bolting, heart pounding, forced into the night. She needed answers, needed to find Lily, but with every step into the darkness, she feared that she was running deeper into a web woven by a terror far greater than she could imagine. What was lurking in the corners of her once safe neighborhood? What choice aimed at her heart, hidden within the shadows? As she fled, she felt the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes watching, waiting for her to stumble. And deep within her mind, a single chilling thought took root: had she awakened something that should have remained asleep? The wind howled, shrieking like a banshee as Sarah sprinted, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. Each step felt pulling her deeper into the sinister playground that had once been her home. Memories of laughter echoed in her mind, now transformed into cruel mockery, their warmth drowned by the rain that soaked through her skin like the creeping dread wrapping around her soul. As soon as she turned a corner, the laughter swelled again, twisting in her ears. It felt too close, like a child standing just behind her, a breath away, a heartbeat away. Panic surged within her, propelling her forward despite the crumbling leaves beneath her feet. "Lily! Please, where are you?" she called again, each word chased by a tremor of despair. No answer, just the sound of the storm and that incessant, haunting giggle slithering around her. She dared to glance back. There was nothing, only shadows dancing among the trees, but a chill tingled at the nape of her neck. The streetlights flickered, struggling against the downpour, casting monstrous shadows that loomed over her. Their gold-hued eyes blinked out, creating deeper gulfs of darkness where things lurked, things that were hungry, waiting for a slip, a falter. She pushed herself harder, adrenaline igniting her senses. As she neared the park at the end of the block, its playground sat eerily still, swings swaying as if touched by unseen hands. A flash of red at the edge of her vision made her freeze. Was that a glimpse of Lily's coat? "Stay away from her!" A voice pierced through the howling wind. Sarah instinctively turned back, but instead of a friendly face, she found nothing but the emptiness that clawed at her heart. The laughter bubbled back up again, it was everywhere inside her head. "Find me, Mommy." The sing-song melody cut through the storm, a seductive taunt that twisted her gut. Was it really Lily? Her heart raced as hope flared. Panic clawed at her, the instinct to run or to save her child raging within. "Lily!" she screamed, a primal sound of desperation and pleading. In the trembling silence that followed, the laughter melded, forming an otherworldly chorus. The shadows shifted, revealing the grotesque figure, its grin now elongated, teeth glistening through the darkness as it stepped closer to her, unsettling in its joyous malevolence. Almost there it crooned, its voice echoing with a sinister echo that felt familiar yet twisted. "No! Get away!" She lashed out, a futile swing of her fists. Despair turned to fury, igniting within her the fierce love of a mother. Before she realized it, she was moving again, not back toward the house, but toward the park where the shadows of life twisted cruelly against the skeletons of playground equipment where she felt she had to go. Sarah's heart thundered against her ribcage, urging her forward as she chased that flicker of red, but as she dashed, she stumbled, the ground betraying her, sending her sprawling into the mud. The laughter roared around her, dark and suffocating, like a tidal wave crashing down. Instinctively, she reached for the pocket of her coat, fingers brushing against the cool, familiar shape of a small token, a faded picture of a little girl in a red coat, smiling up at her from when the world still felt safe, and then, the laughter stopped. As silence settled like a heavy fog, Sarah froze to the marrow. It was too quiet. No wind, no rain, no sound but the pounding of her own heart echoing in the void. Sarah, a small voice, soft and innocent, called her name, drawing her back into the darkness. The light flickered again, and she squinted into the shadows, desperate to find the source of that voice. Was it Lily? Just as she got to her feet, another crash echoed from the park's hollow depths. The figure was back, arms open wide, that grotesque grin looming closer. "Come play, we've been waiting for you." Trapped in this nightmare, Sarah realized the hunted had become the prey, cornered by the very shadows she once felt so familiar with. She couldn't stop the dread that twisted her stomach. They were here to claim what was rightfully theirs, and she was out of time. Panic surged, forcing her to take a shaky step back. Was it too late to save her daughter, or, worse, had she even been the target all along? A chilling whisper gripped her mind. What if the darkness and this figure weren't just after Lily? What if they wanted something from Sarah, too? As the shadows cloaked her in total darkness, she felt the creeping tendrils of despair wrap tighter around her throat. And then she gasped. Behind the figure, a glaring light flickered, a fleeting glimpse of something vast and terrible, revealing rows of eyes staring, hungry. It was watching. Forcing a wavering breath into her lungs, she whispered, "What do you want?" But the only response was that twisted giggle echoing through the night. And as the darkness surged, she realized she wasn't the only one aware. Let the game begin. What choice would Sarah make now as the clock ticked against her? Would the truth of the shadows consume them both? The figure loomed closer, an unstoppable force cloaked in shadows. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat a desperate plea for survival. "You don't have to do this," she begged, each word almost swallowed by the wind. The figure halted, tilting its head, the grin stretching further, exposing a mouthful of jagged teeth that gleamed like shards in the faint light. "Who says I want to hurt you?" It hummed, the voice smooth and sweet, deceptively inviting. "I just want to play a game. But I need you to join us." The last word lingered in the air, full of dark promise. Her gut twisted at the thought. What kind of game? She managed. The laughter reared up around her again, taunting, almost playful, but with an undeniable edge of malice. "An old one," it replied, hands stretched out. "One where things become clearer, where truths unravel." Sarah's breath hitched as she squared her shoulders. "I'll never play along with you," she shouted, fury igniting within her, the clenching fear no longer enough to keep her silent. The figure laughed, an echo that darted into the recesses of her mind. "Oh, but my dear, you already are," it cooed, fingers curling toward her in a gesture as inviting as it was threatening. Desperation surged anew. She dashed toward the playground, using the familiar metal and wood as shields against that grinning monster. But the laughter followed, wrapping around her like chains, binding, tightening. "Mommy!" The soft voice called again from the darkness, now closer, more present. It lit a flicker of hope in Sarah's chest, pushing her to run faster. She dodged past the swings, now creaking ominously, as if recalling darker times, but nothing mattered except reaching that voice, reaching Lily. Suddenly, a cold hand grasped her ankle, yanking her down into the mud with a sickening slosh. She cried out, flailing as she tumbled. The vision of that red coat flashed into her mind, a beacon beckoning from the void. Gripping a handful of grass, she pulled herself back up, but the figure stood even closer now, almost impossibly so, as if it had been waiting for her to fall. "Let go," it whispered, head cocked to the side as if reveling in her fear. "What's waiting for you, right here, is so much more fun than wrong." The offer hung heavy in the air, sinister. Her pulse raced not just from fear, but from the chill disbelief that clung to her. What if it was right? "Lily," she breathed, searching the darkness desperately. The edge of her vision caught another flicker of red disappearing behind the playground's tall slide. Sarah's instincts ignited, dragging her forward again, muscles burning with the effort. "Lily! I'm coming!" Every word was heavy with despair. She willed herself to keep going, despite the overwhelming odds pulling against her. The laughter grew louder, swirling around her, mocking her efforts, but she forced her way through. No longer was she just running to escape, she was fighting for her daughter. Heavy rain washed over her face, mixing with tears she could no longer distinguish, but the ground beneath her feet shifted, and with it came a sudden stillness. No wind, no laughter. Just the darkness, black and thick as ink. Mommy, Lily's voice echoed again, now a shaky tremor, bubbling with fear. "Help me!" The darkness split. A figure stepped through, this one familiar and safe, a girl no taller than Sarah's waist, clad in a bright red coat. But then, as she reached out, dread pooled in her stomach. The little girl's smile was not genuine, eyes bright with a glimmer that should have belonged to a far older soul. "Lily?" Sarah whispered, heart-catching. "Join us." The voice was no longer her sweet girl's. It was layered with coldness, wrapping around the words like poison. "Together, Mommy. Forever." Terror turned to icy despair. The game was not just a game. The shadows had something else in mind altogether, and they weren't just waiting for her, it was a trap set for both of them. As Sarah stood frozen, the grotesque figure returned behind Lily, who was now bathed in darkness, mere inches from her outstretched hand, one belonging to her child and another belonging to something unspeakable. "What's your choice, Sarah?" It taunted, swirling shadows around it, waiting to snare them both, and with every second passing, the strangest sensation gripped her. What if she wasn't just saving Lily? What if she needed saving as well? The choice hung in the stifling air, but the answer loomed like a predator. Desperate to break free, Sarah clenched her fists, determined to defy them both. "Whatever you are, you can't have us!" she screamed. But that laughter erupted again, a cacophony echoing in the night just as a faint light flickered from the other side of the park. An escape? Or an invitation? In that moment, she knew. The truth was even darker than she could have imagined. As she turned to run toward the light, Sarah felt the cold grasp behind her tighten. What awaited her on the other side? Would it be freedom, or doom? Sarah sprinted forward, heart racing, each step a deafening drumbeat against the night. The figure's laughter morphed into a chorus of hundreds, echoing down the playground's empty expanse, drowning out everything else. Rain lashed at her face, cold and biting, but she pushed on, driven by the flickering hope that the light ahead promised safety. Yet with every stride, an invisible weight pressed down on her shoulders, urging her back toward the darkness. The hands that had once reached for her daughter now clawed at her resolve, digging deep into her mind, whispering sweet nothings of surrender. Sarah, the voice, both soothing and sinister, slithered into her consciousness. What's the point of running? They're all part of the game. Don't you want to be with Lily? Her breath hitched in her throat, the light ahead pulsing with a warm promise that felt so distant now. Swinging around, Sarah glimpsed the figure, its grin wider than before, jagged teeth glistening wetly in the rain-soaked gloom. "No!" She screamed, the word bursting forth from her like a newfound strength. I refuse to play. As she turned, she could barely make out the outline of the light. The air thickened with danger, the shadows around her swarming like insects, eager to consume her. Then she saw it, a glimmer ahead, growing brighter. A playground lamp flickered on, illuminating the path just enough for her to see the darkened silhouettes around her. Mommy. The voice again, more frantic now. Lily's outline danced within the light, a faint silhouette overshadowed by the deeper darkness surrounding them. Stay there. I'm coming. Sarah shouted, fighting against the invisible chains binding her to the ground. The air crackled with tension, the laughter intensifying as if the shadows fed off her fear, ready to pull her back into their depths. With her body screaming in protest, she charged again, but the joy of hope twisted quickly into panic as she felt the ground shift beneath her. Join us. Lily's voice became clear, but it no longer sounded like the girl she loved. It bore an unsettling familiarity. The sweetness had curdled into something viscous and sickening. No. Sarah closed her eyes, blocking the sensation gnawing at her heart. Those words were no longer merely an echo. They manifested a reality where choice was an illusion. Where darkness invited you to come closer, promising everything you desired. When she opened her eyes, the figure was right before her, breath misting in the icy air, merging with the laughter swirling in an ever-tightening vortex. It leaned in close, face inches from hers, and whispered, "You're nearly there, Sarah. What's a little darkness when you can be with her forever?" In that brief moment, everything stretched, a heartbeat, a breath, a shudder of time bending under fear's weight. Then she saw the light dimmer, flickering in rhythm to her quickening pulse. Join us. The depths beckoned, dozens of echoing voices merging into a melody both enticing and horrific. Then, she felt it, an overwhelming pull. Her instinct screamed at her to fight, but the shadows clamored for her to surrender, and just as she opened her mouth to deny them, everything shifted again. The sensation of being sucked into an unseen void gripped her soul. Struggling against it felt hopeless, as if the very ground was pulling her back. But in her heart, the memory of Lily sparked brighter than any light. With a roar of defiance, Sarah lunged, grabbing for the flickering warmth that promised freedom, her hand reaching out for an unseen anchor, but the grip on her heart held tight. Was the warmth a lie? Could she truly escape? The darkness closed in fast, shadows swirling to drown her cries. And in the final gasp of resistance, she could barely comprehend, the only truth she had left to find was whether the light could withstand the dark. Would it consume her, or was it the key to saving them both? As she teetered on the edge of oblivion, a haunting thought emerged in the chaotic spiral surrounding her. Did she even know what humiliation awaited her, or what awaited in the waking world? The world snapped back into focus. Sarah felt her fingers graze a warm surface. No, the light. She lunged forward, the sensation igniting a fire in her veins. With a final, desperate thrust, she broke through the encroaching shadows. But instead of the bright glow she had envisioned, she tumbled into an icy darkness. The cold shock sliced through her like shards of glass. Her breath came in shallow gasps, panic clawing at her throat. Something was wrong. "Mommy?" The voice echoed again, but now it sounded distant, almost mocking. Sarah looked around, the oppressive darkness swallowing her, wicking away the remnants of hope. She stumbled to her feet, heart hammering as the quiet grew heavy, thick with dread. "Lily?" The name slipped from her lips like a prayer, but the only response was a whisper that seemed to curl around her, chilling her bones. "Join us." The sinister chorus came again, a chorus of soft, taunting coos that reverberated in her skull. Shadows danced around, twisting and writhing, shaping themselves into grotesque figures that bore the faces of those she had lost, friends, family, faces twisted in pain and longing, gaping mouths stretching into silent screams of despair. "No! This isn't real!" she shouted, words spilling from her as she backed into something hard. A wall? A swing set? Fingers brushed her wrist, cold and clammy. She jerked her arm away, spinning again, feeling the panic rise. "Lily!" Where are you? Her voice trembled, the fear turning her insides to ice. Laughter echoed, rich and full of malice. The shadows splintered, revealing flashes of movement. Shapes darted and danced around her, eyes glowing with an unholy light. As the shapes converged, she felt it, the heavy pressure of their collective gaze. Each eerie face bore expressions of longing, yet their eyes twisted with malice, taunting her with memories that weren't hers. You gave up on us. You left us behind. Join us now. No. The word erupted in defiance from her chest, shaking the darkness momentarily. The laughter faded, replaced by a stillness that felt suffocating. It hung in the air, thick and oppressive, as if the very atmosphere were pregnant with unspeakable horrors. She blinked, adrenaline surging through her, eyes wide as she caught a glimpse of a tiny figure materializing in the distance. "Mommy, help me." That sweet voice, Lily's voice, broke through the freezing shadows like a beam of sunlight. Driven by fear and love, Sarah bolted in the direction of the voice, feeling the gnashing teeth of the darkness lunge at her heels. The figures scratched at her, each clawing for a piece of her soul, each whispering promises of endless joy in the darkness. "Stay back!" she shouted, defiance unspooling in her chest. The shadows hesitated, then surged forward with renewed fury. They clawed at her legs, pulling her down, desperate to wrench her from her purpose, but the cry of her daughter surrounded her, a beacon cutting through the despair. Thoughts of holding her, protecting her, flooded Sarah's mind. "Lily!" She lunged again, wrapping her fingers around something solid, the warmth flooding into her palm. It was Lily's hand, small and trembling. "Got you!" Sarah gasped, pulling with every ounce of strength left within her. She felt the darkness reel back, the tormenting whispers morphing into shrieks of outrage. But the moment was fleeting. In an instant, the corners of her vision darkened once more. The grip on her hand felt slippery, almost phantom-like. "Mommy, help me!" The chant turned desperate, cracking her heart. Then she realized a chilling clarity washed over her. This darkness could reshape reality. It fed on them, their fears and desires boiling into something grotesque. As she held Lily's hand tight, Sarah felt a new impulse surge in her. The shadows closed in faster, the shrieks sharpening around her. The darkness wanted them both, but she wouldn't surrender. "Together!" Sarah yelled, feeling her strength renew, a fire igniting her spirit as the shadows hissed in frustration. Could love be the key? And just as hope rekindled, the ground beneath their feet split open, revealing a pulsing void. The laughter returned, but it was angry now, chaotic, rebellious. Would they be swallowed whole? Would they end up lost forever? With no answers in sight, Sarah and Lily jumped into the unknown, the darkness roaring in furious rage behind them. What awaited them on the other side? The leap felt eternal. Time stretched, seconds trailing out like taffy, the wind howling in their ears. It was a plunge into darkness, a reckless gamble for survival. Sarah gripped Lily's hand tighter, fears cascading like heavy weights. They landed with a bone-jarring thud on a surface that felt both solid and unreal, a soft earth mingled with something slick and cold. As they scrambled to their feet, gasping, Sarah blinked against the darkness that snaked around them. She squinted, trying to adjust to the muted shapes flickering beyond the fog. The void had swallowed them whole, yet a faint shimmer caught her eye, beckoning like a flame in a storm. "Mommy?" Lily whimpered, her voice small. "I'm here," Sarah whispered, dragging her daughter closer, their breaths mingling in terror. She felt the vibration of the shadows, a crawling sensation that tingled in the air, teasing her skin with a malevolent energy. "Where are we?" The question hung in the air, heavy and frightened. An eerie light began to grow, illuminating their surroundings faintly. The ground was littered with strange, twisted branches and brittle leaves, as if a forest once thrived here, now choked by darkness. Shadows flitted between the trees, coiling, lurking, then a low growl reverberated through the ground. Sarah's heart raced. "Stay close," she whispered, her breath shaky. They edged forward, the shadows closing in, lingering just beyond the fading light. Suddenly, a figure emerged, blurring from the darkness. It ducked and swayed, a grotesque parody of a human form. Eyes glowed like coals, burning with hunger. The creature stopped, its head tilting, a sound slithering from its throat, a mixture of laughter and something primal. "Look! It's the mother and her little lost one," it hissed, moving closer, rippling with an unnatural grace, blending with the shadows. "Get away from us!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline surging. The creature paused, its smile widening, revealing jagged, glistening teeth. "We have so much fun here. Do you want to play?" It stretched its fingers, elongated claws that seemed to beckon. "No. We just want to leave," Lily squeaked, clinging to Sarah's leg. But the atmosphere shifted. The creature's laughter twisted into an unsettling melody, spinning tales of past victims, lost souls woven into the very essence of this dark place. Giggling voices echoed. Join us in eternal play." Sarah pulled Lily closer, the weight of despair pressing down, clawing at her resolve. They needed to escape, but how? The air felt thickened with dread, wrapping around them like chains. "Over there!" Sarah shouted, spotting what looked like a path, a faint glow hovering at its end. A flickering hope ignited within her. Without thinking, they dashed toward the light, the shadows recoiling, angry hisses filling the night. "Run!" she yelled, pulling Lily along, her small legs moving desperately to keep pace. But the laughter grew, rising to a fever pitch, echoing in their minds, saturating their resolve with panic. "You can't escape. You belong to us." Heart pounding, Sarah felt as if the very darkness were breathing behind them, hot and insistent. It was closing in, stretching, reaching. And then she slipped, falling to the ground in a tangle of limbs. "Mommy!" Fear sliced through her. She lunged for Lily, who had stumbled. But in the chaos, the shadows swarmed. They enveloped the little girl, dragging her back. "No! No!" Sarah screamed, desperation clawing at her throat as she scrambled after her daughter. Lily's terrified gaze met hers, and just like that, the darkness shifted, pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The world around them felt more solid now, and in that moment, Sarah's eyes caught a glimpse of something she hadn't noticed before: an old, rusted key hanging from a twisted branch. Could it be the key to escape? More shadows emerged, swirling to block her. The vision of Lily fading, terrified, pushed her forward. With renewed resolve, Sarah lunged for the key, her heartbeat screeching in her ears. But she knew she had to choose: would she fight for her daughter or risk it all for a chance of freedom? But which path would lead to salvation, and which would seal their fate? The shadows lurked closer, anticipation hanging thick in the air. What would Sarah decide? The key felt cool and heavy in Sarah's hand as she swung around, fury burning bright in her heart. She noticed the shadows closing in. They were hungry, voracious, and the laughter grew into a cacophony of voices, each one echoing the names of lost children, whispering tales of despair. But Sarah could hear Lily's cries through it all, cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. They kept beckoning, each voice imploring her to give in, to join the ghastly game they offered. "No!" Sarah shouted, gripping the key tightly, adrenaline electrifying her muscles as she fought through the gathering gloom. "Not my daughter. I won't let you take her." The very air seemed to crackle and hiss as she lunged forward, determined to reach Lily. To her horror, the shadows giggled as if they found her defiance amusing, twisting and swirling, a tempest of darkness that sought to smother all light. They were closing in, ready to reclaim what was theirs, feeding off her fear. "Mommy!" Lily's voice trembled and frail, a melody of terror that shattered Sarah's resolve. "Hold on, sweetheart!" Sarah screamed back, shoving aside her apprehensions. With every ounce of strength she had left, she pushed forward. The key weighed against her heart, an emblem of hope, but she didn't know if it would unlock safety or damnation. The path to the light pulsed invitingly like a heartbeat, and she turned towards it, taking rapid steps, her eyes locked on the figure of her daughter. But just as she thought she was within reach, the shadows lashed out, forming a wall of darkness that sent vibrations of panic through her. They were trying to isolate her, to tear apart the bond between mother and child. "Mommy, please." Lily's cries grew louder, desperation lacing her voice like a haunting refrain. The sight of her, small and frightened against the raging shadows, ignited every protective instinct within Sarah. She couldn't lose her. "Get away from her!" Sarah bellowed, plunging the key towards the shadows, its rusty edge slicing through the air, as if it wielded power misplaced in their dark reality. To her shock, the shadows recoiled, howling back in pain, a riptide of fear crashing against her hazard of resolve. Was the key the answer? Adrenaline surged through her veins, she held it tightly, feeling its energy transforming into something potent and unyielding. "Lily!" She shouted again, fervor giving her voice an edge, "Grab my hand." The child's frightened gaze met hers, a spark of recognition lighting up the depths of those frightened eyes. With sudden courage, Lily reached out, and Sarah felt the world tremble as they connected, their hands clasping fiercely despite the roiling chaos. The shadows screamed as if realizing the bond was unbreakable. Their laughter morphed into something dark and menacing as they surged forward, desperate to reclaim what they'd lost. But Sarah felt a shift in the air, the power of the key thrumming through her hand as if it echoed their determination to defy the shadows. "Together!" Sarah cried, channeling every fragment of love and strength she had. With Lily grasped firmly at her side, she thrust the key into the darkness surrounding them. "We choose light. We choose love." The shadows wrenched back with an ear-piercing wail as a brilliant white light erupted from the key, blinding and pure, cutting through the darkness like a knife. It enveloped them, lifting them off their feet as a whirlwind cascaded around them, peeling away the shadows, and above it all rose Lily's laughter, a joyful, unbroken sound that echoed in the storm. For a heartbeat, the shadows churned angrily before they began to dissolve, retreating like roaches caught in the sun. The oppressive weight of despair lifted, replaced with warmth as they flew upward through layers of darkness, spiraling into an awakening glow. After an eternity of fear, the moment finally fractured. A bright light illuminated the vastness, breaking through their nightmare. Suddenly, with a final thud, they landed on familiar ground, the grass cool beneath their feet and the sunlight warming their skin. Sarah blinked against the brightness, astonished and overwhelmed. There stood Lily, a shimmering vision, tears of relief shimmering down her little face. "Mommy! We're safe!" Lily flung herself into Sarah's arms with a joy that felt electric. "Yes, my love." Sarah enveloped her, heart swelling with gratitude and fierce love. "We did it. We're free from that darkness." As they embraced, warm rays of the sun bathed them alive, washing away the remnants of fear, confirming their victory against the shadows. The voices faded into memory, leaving behind echoes of laughter tangled with bittersweet memories. The chains of the past fell away, their hearts lightened as their spirits soared just like the summer breeze sweeping through the park. "I love you, Mommy," Lily whispered, her voice bright as the sun. "I love you too, sweet girl," Sarah murmured, her heart swelling. "Always." They held on to each other, forging a bond that darkness couldn't sever, leaving the shadows buried deep into the recesses of their memory, somewhere they'd never return. They turned towards the familiar path leading home, hearts resilient against the screams of the past, and with that, they stepped into the light, leaving the horrors of the neighbor next door behind. But before they reached their front door, Sarah glanced back to the park, sensing remnants of unease. The shadows were gone, yet still, something felt amiss. A reminder echoed through the air: darkness often lies in wait, ready for the next opportunity, concealed behind a grin, disguised in everyday life. And still, as they walked on, she knew what mattered most now: protection, vigilance, and the powerful bond of love that burned brighter than all shadows combined. Together, they would face whatever came next. So remember, friends. Keep those you love close. For in the face of hidden terror, connection is the strongest light of all. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word and prepare everyone for the next chilling tale to come.